Right, good morning and welcome to the Hammersmith and Fulham Fit to Bid seminar on the circular economy delivered to you by Brandywine Business Support. My name's Tony Mulvale. We'll kick off in about a minute's time, just letting people get a cup of coffee in and get themselves settled in for this session. So I'll just leave myself on mute for another minute and then we'll start the session. Right, okay, so it's just after 10 o'clock. My name's Tony Mulvale. I am your presenter today talking about the circular economy. This is part of Hammersmith and Fulham's Fit to Bid program, which is delivered by Brandywine Business Support. I am one of the Brandywine business advisors working on this program, and we'll be talking about the circular economy and developing key partnerships for businesses that are at the early stage of their journey as a startup, or perhaps you're looking to grow. These are key concepts that will help you develop better connections in the community and also better ways of running your business and more effective ways of running your business. So we'll cover that shortly. Just a moment. Excuse me. So my name is Tony Mulvale. As I said, I run my own consultancy called Planning for the Best, and I'm a member of the newly rebranded Association for Project Management. I am one of the Brandywine advisors working on the program, and I also lecture at the University of West London. During the call, there's an opportunity to ask questions if you would like. There is a question and answers panel, so if you want to pop in any questions as we go along to gain clarity on some of the topics, feel free to do that. And moving along, we'll talk about circular economy, give you an overview of what it's about. We'll look at the value, traditional versus value transfer model. We have a case study for you as well, based on a client who was involved with Brandywine in the circular economy. We'll also talk about the key partnerships canvas, which is a critical piece of thinking for you to go through this, to look at your business and who you can work with in order to develop your business as a going concern. We'll have some exercises and some action plans, and for those of you in Hammersmith, there's also the one-to-one sessions that are here as well. So we'll be talking a little bit about that as the morning progresses. So what do we mean by Fit to Bid? Fit to Bid is a series of steps that takes you along the way to be able to engage with procurement teams, develop your online bid capabilities through enhanced bidding skills. We look at sales enablement and ways of helping you sell to the local authorities, sell to main bodies such as Mighty or other organizations like that, Morgan Sindall, for example, who are operating in Hammersmith and Fulham. And we can also provide you with specific tender advice for you if you need support to bid for this council work. So what do we mean by the circular economy? We're talking about ending our throwaway society. So we're looking at ways of being able to enhance our economic activity, enhance well-being and personal growth all through the green economy, and looking at ways to make that a better process and recycle into this transition of recycling, production and reuse. So the circular economy is a development strategy for businesses. It's becoming more important as the ESG movement gains in knowledge. So we're talking about environment, social and governance, and it also links in with the United Nations Sustainable Development Goals. There are 17 of those with lots of differing activities around cities that are fit to live, water, people, and food. So when we look into those United Nations Sustainable Development Goals and we think about which of those activities can we support as a business, this helps us with our circular economy work as well. So in our traditional businesses, we would do the take, make, use, and waste approach. This would mean basically products that were new, we would consume the raw materials, we would move towards making them and using them, and at the end of the life, we would just throw them away. But that model needs to be reshaped because companies don't take, we're taking scarce resources from the environment. Products were designed and made so they could be shipped to clients for limited use and then end up as landfill. And there are companies now such as IKEA who are looking at zero landfill policies, say everything that we have will be recycled or reused in some way, and we want to have a zero landfill policy. So a circular economy is taking some of that and looking at ways of reusing, recycling, returning, repairing. So we use something and we can reuse it, we can repair it. There are shops popping up now that are repair centers where perhaps you can take along something that's broken, like an old radio or a coffee maker or a toaster, and it can be repaired at an economic value. You can reuse the materials in it, so maybe your toaster can't be repaired, but it's got metal in it, it's got electrical components in it that could be reused perhaps to repair other toasters, or you could return it and recycle it depending on which way round you look at it. If the toaster is completely unusable, maybe we can recycle some of the metal in there. Maybe some of the glass can be used for tarmac. That sort of activity could make it worthwhile. So we're moving away from take and make and waste and into this circular economy where we're able to say, how can we reuse this? And in doing this, we can limit what we take and make, and we reduce the amount of waste created, and it increases the value for us. And in the food business, as an example, if you're producing food waste, you can link up with a company that does anaerobic digestion to produce methane. So rather than sending your food waste into the bin and then into landfill, you can send it to recycling centers where it can be turned into biomethane, which can then be used to run factories and fed back into the grid. So lots of different examples of that. If you're looking at copper and electrical cabling, bright copper has a resale value as well, so you can recycle that, and people will pay money for you to take on that particular product. So when we're talking about this waste, and this is the example here, it might be waste for us, but some people can take that and reuse it. So in the example of the car industry, as an example, when I take my car in to get a new set of tires in there, they're not just skipped and put into landfill. They can reuse those tires for other purposes. People have used them to make buildings, to put into playgrounds and other spaces like that, to continue using the product. Even though it's beyond its useful life on the road, it still has a useful life in other deployments. So we're looking at ways of using that to sustain it. So we're looking at fashion. So used materials can be recycled and turned into insulation in construction. Recycled plastic bottles, we can continue to recycle the plastic bottles for water. We have paper for printing, we can send that back as pulp and that can be reused. And the metal from car parts, an example I talked about before, even with the car, when you strip out all of the insides, the seats, the engine and the petrol tank and those components, you're still left with recyclable metal at the end of that. So there's lots of different ways to recycle and reuse the different components that you have in your varying activities there, and varying components of cars and those sorts of things. So as I say, if you want to ask questions as we go along and you have some thoughts about how you might be able to use the circular economy, please drop them into the questions and answers. So this is the sort of heart of the circular economy. It's when your outputs become someone else's input. So I'm a kitchen, I'm producing a lot of leftovers and scraps and food waste. I've got a place I can send that will do the decomposition for me, generate methane, feed that back into the grid, and my waste has become somebody else's input, and they're turning it into something that can be used and recycled in that way. And when we think about this, and we've become more circular, the operational, commercial, environmental benefits accrue as a result of that, because we're able to reduce our costs. So maybe we don't have to source things as in the same quantities. Maybe we were paying for our waste to be taken away, and now we can actually have someone buy our waste from us. So we go from a cost of disposal of waste to a payment for handover to somebody who's going to use that waste in their commercial operation. We have increasing compliance with particularly environmental and social standards. So environmental standards mean that we can't dispose of waste in a certain way. We have to make sure that if we dispose of rubbish, that we get a certificate from the operators they've disposed of the waste properly, or that they've recycled it. So by demonstrating that we've been through the right process, we get less chance of being fined, or in fact, for fly tipping is a criminal offence, so you can actually be fined substantially and end up with a criminal record as a result of not disposing of your waste properly. So that's something where you can really make sure your business is protected through the right process for correct disposal of waste. And also it helps us retain and motivate talent, because people can see that what they're doing adds value to the job that they're doing, adds value to the economy, has a social value to it as well. And increasingly, customers want to know, what are your environmental policies? What are your social policies? How do you make sure that your business is acting in a way that is helping the economy, helping the environment, and being a good corporate citizen? So that tends to generate better loyalty and helps you with customer retention. So these are important activities. And when we look at that and we're saying new revenue streams, we talked about that example of selling your waste to a biomanufacturer. So they will take it on and they're going to make a commercial profit out of it. So you can have a discussion with them about how much value does that add to you. And you can use this to demonstrate your environmental credentials, your social benefit, your social value. So now you're saying, this is us, this is our business, this is our brand. And when we're bidding for work with the local authorities, part of what they want to look at is our environmental policies, our environmental impact. They will look at our social value and how we add value within the area that we operate. So doing these activities and implementing these policies and taking the steps to make this happen is all very positive for you, particularly if you're looking for bids with local authorities, with government-funded bodies, NHS, organizations like that. And ultimately, if we are taking these steps to reduce our emissions, then we are having an impact on greenhouse gas emissions. We're able to reduce those emissions. We're able to reduce waste and protect biodiversity. In Hammersmith and Fulham, they have a cargo bike scheme. So if you're looking to deliver goods if you have a shop and you want to deliver goods, you can use that cargo bike to package up your goods and deliver them to people using an electric cargo bike. There's also another scheme in Hammersmith that enables you to purchase as a consumer goods that will be delivered to you via an electric bike delivery service from your local shops. So again, if you're a local shop, you could be part of that scheme, and you might be selling cheese or clothing or books or something like that, or cookware, and somebody can order from you. You can package it up and you can put it into the electric bike service, and that will be delivered to the customer. And that's one way of increasing your reducing your greenhouse gas emissions and enabling just going to get rid of something on the screen, enabling a better use of the circular economy. So that we get lots of benefits from being part of the circular economy, and we can demonstrate this as a business, that we are working with our environment, we're working with the customers, and we're working to create a better environment as a result of the work that we're doing in this space. And we used to think about this as 4 lenses with our business model canvas, with the feasibility being, can we do this? Desirability is around who would like this. Viability is again to be something that we can benefit from and make a living. And adaptability is, are we able to adapt our model to make that happen? But now we're talking about different ways of looking at that and saying, okay, so if we can compete with a sustainable business, now we're going to be acting with purpose as well. So by following up on the circular economy, we're looking at having a positive impact on society, our community, and overall we're contributing to the planetary need to reduce our greenhouse emissions. So it's a virtuous circle, if you like, and then another activity that we're performing as business owners where we're acting with purpose, and our purpose is driven by this environmental and social purpose, as well as our desire to run a sustainable and financially viable business that will continue into the future. So that's the lenses that we operate, and we're adding this into the business model canvas as well. And in our one-to-one sessions that we hold with businesses in the borough, we talk about how to act with purpose and how does your purpose feed into the business model that you have. How can you adapt your model to become more sustainable as a business, and how do you become a better business by developing purpose, which leads into desirability, which enables you to sell more to your customers. So we need to include that purpose in there because it should be part of our innovative thinking and strategy. We want to be able to manage that transition from us as a business to us as a purposeful business working in our community. So that's the concept here that we're talking about with the circular economy. And just any questions on that, or anybody have anything they'd like to clarify through that? No? Okay. So when we're looking at social value, and I touched on this a little bit about this before, is about our commercial customers, the impact on those customers. So we're looking at the social, the economic, and the environmental, and we're looking at what's the social value that we're adding to this. So we have a social impact and an environmental impact, and in our business model canvas, we also have the social and environmental benefits. So what steps are we taking to mitigate some of those social impacts that we have? What are the steps we're taking to mitigate some of the environmental impacts? So social benefits, that could be simply something like, I want to be a living wage employer. So I might look at the Living Wage Foundation, understand the terms and conditions by which I need to pay my employees a living wage, and I might apply to become a living wage employer. And that demonstrates my commitment to my team who are critical to my business. So by doing that, I'm adding social value to my enterprise. Other aspects of that might be volunteering. So from a social aspect, you might say, well, actually, we will do some social volunteering and we will go and work with a charity in the area 1 day a month or 2 hours a month or something like that to give them some of our expertise. Some of the other social benefits may be that if you are a food business or a catering business, you might offer up some support for City Harvest, for example, who are working with the Trussell Trust and other companies like this to support food banks in the area. There are lots of different ways that you can demonstrate that you're adding value, social value, to businesses around you. And on the environmental side as well, maybe that you engage with some of the programs that are going on with West London Business or the local council looking at better futures and Climax community to understand what's my carbon footprint, how much am I emitting in terms of greenhouse gases, and developing a plan that enables me to do better from an environmental perspective. So I might be looking at my shop and saying, well, you know, I've got a whole lot of halogen bulbs installed. They generate 95% of the electricity is generated as heat and the other 5% is light. So if I convert everything to LEDs, I'm going to have less heat being generated. So it reduces the amount of greenhouse gas emissions, but also I'm using less electricity. And so that will give me a benefit in terms of my overall bill and a reduction in the amount of heat I need and have in my business. So maybe I don't need to use the air conditioning as much in the in the warmer months because they don't have as much heat in the building. So these are all things to think about where you can make an environmental impact by taking small steps. Some of it might be if I do deliveries, as I say, I use a electric cargo bike, or maybe there's an electric van I can have, or maybe I look at other ways of delivering, which could be cycle couriers, cargo bikes, that type of change in the business. And there may be small changes, but all these small changes add up to big change if everybody is doing them. So it's small step-by-step improvement. So when we're looking at this, the green economy, we're looking at repair, recycle, make, use, reuse. So we go around in that cycle and make sure that we are taking on activities that will make a difference to the community we operate within. And that's where we talk about our social value. And that's what I talk about there. It could be volunteering, could be providing food, it could be recycling, waste that some people have to then reuse that in what you're doing. It could be that you have skills to repair things and you're able to support businesses by repairing some of the equipment they have rather than them throwing it away and buying a new one. There are lots of different ways, depending on your skill set, you can support the local businesses. And when we start thinking about this, it's how we make these significant changes, and we can do them in a short time frame. So we don't have to make huge changes to our business model. We can make small but significant changes, just shifting from a petrol-driven van dropping off all of our goods to an electric-driven van dropping off all of our goods is a substantial shift in the amount of greenhouse gases we produce. So we need to look at some of these alternative business models. How can they save us costs? Are there new markets we can access or new revenue streams we can generate as a result of recycling our waste, or recycling equipment that we have that's no longer valuable, or maybe we have a collection point for recycling? We can commercialize some of this new IP, so we have intellectual property, and we can say, yes, actually, this is a new way of doing business in this economy. We can register as IP and use that for commercial advantage, and we can start to define how regulation is implemented and how we comply with it, so we can make sure that we are compliant with the new standards come out. Maybe there are ISO standards that we need to adhere to if we're doing work with some of the big names like Morgan Sindall. Maybe we need the ISO 14001, which is the environmental standard. And the research shows that these days we have graduates coming out of universities and colleges, and they're looking for businesses with purpose. So by setting out our purpose, we're saying, this is what we want to achieve. This is how we contribute to society. This is how we contribute to the economy. This is how we contribute to the environment. The millennials that are graduating now want to work in organizations that have a clear purpose, and the purpose isn't just about the economic purpose of the entity, it's about the social and the environmental purpose as well. So that gives us access to people and talent who are interested in engaging with us and want to work with us to deliver on that purpose. And we can start to engage with local businesses as well. So how can we work together to make this happen? What steps can we take to be a thriving business community where we're able to collaborate and innovate in the circular economy? Because we might find that we're in an industrial estate and I'm working next door to somebody I've never spoken to, but suddenly I go and talk to them and find that they have a whole bunch of pallets that I might want to be able to use in my business. And we'll talk about that in a moment. If we want to build back better, there are free workshops for SMEs in London at relondon.gov.uk. So if you take that link and sign up, you'll be able to look at ways of improving your circular economy and building back better. And when we talk about, working together, the cheetah, fastest land animal in the world, but they hunt alone. Chases are very limited. They run at a very high speed, but it lasts less than a minute. They do get tired easily. Biggest challenge they have is they can't climb trees, so they tend to have their food taken from them by lions and leopards and other animals that are more aggressive, and their hunt rate is 50-50. So sometimes they succeed, sometimes they don't, but it's a fought lifestyle for them, and they have to work very hard to get the kills they need to survive. Whereas if we think about sustainable partnerships, this African proverb of if you want to go fast, go alone like the cheetah, but if you want to go far, go together. And here we see a herd of elephants, and elephants work together. The matriarchs of the herd have knowledge that's passed down to them from their mothers, and water holes are, they know where the good food spots are, and they're able to keep the herd on the move and protect them even in times of drought and stress by knowing where to go to get the best food and the best water. So that's an example of how working together, passing on knowledge, understanding how to support each other, we can go far in a sustainable partnership. So we'll talk a little bit about that after we look at our partnerships and collaborations at Brandywin. We have worked with a number of organisations in West London, so working with Hammersmith and Fulham now, being part of that programme that's been running almost a year, sponsored by the Borough. We've worked with Brent, with Hillingdon, Wandsworth, Hounslow, Ealing, along with home counties, the Old Oakham Park World Development Corporation. So we are collaborating with businesses and building partnerships. And it takes a long time to do this. It takes 6 to 12 months to build up the contacts and build up the understanding of who they are and what they do. And it takes a lot of time in terms of elapsed time to maintain and continue those relationships into the future. We're also going to talk about how to go about building those partnership aims and goals. So we're going to look at value exchange between our business models and what we mean from there. So we're looking at how to create value, who has the value, who the partners are, and what we do. So value exchange between the two business models is all about who has the value and how do we exchange it. So why do we want to do this? Partly it's about customer expectations, making sure that we're delivering the service that our customers or clients want. We might be able to build a specific solution, but we may need a partner to do that. We want to be able to scale up, but if I need to run a delivery service and I'm trying to deliver nationally, I might not have the scale to support national deliveries. I might want a partner. So if some of the supply chain and logistics come to play, I might want to take out some of the risk and uncertainty. So there's lots of different ways of doing that. It could be marketing, it could be supply chain. As we talked about, I need a supply person who can deliver things. It might be financial partnerships where we work with somebody who provides us with the finances to support us in our business. Lots of different ways of doing that. So when we think about this, it's about adapting our business model and developing these key partnerships. And who are these key partners? And really we're focused on the kind of left-hand side of the business model canvas, key partners, key suppliers, and what are the key resources that we acquire from these partners, and what are the key activities that our partners perform for us. So our partners in a smaller business, they may well be our accountant, our bookkeeper, HR team. Maybe we have access to a marketing team who are able to do some of the marketing for us. Maybe we're looking at some of the financial reporting we need to do. Maybe we have somebody who can do the financial management reporting for us. So these are the sorts of partners we might look for in a smaller business where we're looking to outsource this. So have a think about who your strategic partnerships might be. Do you have anybody you think you can work with who supplies you with inputs to your business, and how you work with them and how you transfer them back? And if you want to pop them in the chat, we can have a look at that as well. Or you might want to write some yourself. If you're building an app for people, your suppliers are going to be your technology developers. Maybe you have a development team who is your strategic partner. If you're working for a food company, some of your strategic suppliers might be your food packaging people. Recently, there's an article about the company that won. It was the company of the year for the one that uses seaweed as part of their packaging activity. So it's a biodegradable component. So it's not plastic, but it's seaweed that's been manufactured in a way that you can use it, you can put food in it, you can take it away and dispose of it economically, and look at ways of, you know, reducing the waste that comes out of that and the landfill. Some of the other partnerships might be, if you are in a shop and you have waste, you might be able to work with somebody who can take waste away from you when you need it taken away. We know the council is able to provide a waste disposal service, but it might be at fixed times that don't work for your shop, because if it's open late and you're running a restaurant, you might want to be able to dispose of the rubbish at the end of the day when you're closing your restaurant. So you may be able to work with a partner who can come along, collect your waste, and then dispose of it for you at 11 o'clock at night, rather than leaving it inside the restaurant, or maybe outside in bins that the foxes like to come and use for their dinner in the early hours of the morning. So lots of different ways to think about, you know, what might those partnerships be. So there's a couple in the chat there. Yep. So from Mr. Forsome, Miss Forsome, talking about accounting. Yes, so you've got your HR and health and safety. They're definite partners that you could draw on for specialist knowledge. They have specialisms around health and safety in the workplace, ability to do health and safety assessments, and provide you with an external accreditation that you have a safe workplace. So yep, that's a good one. And particularly as a small business, if you can't afford to employ a person full-time to be your health and safety person, then working with somebody locally who can do that is a great way of keeping your costs down, but enabling compliance to demonstrate, you know, modern slavery policies, the health and safety at work, and all of those sorts of compliance activities are complete and meet the necessary standard. Thank you very much. And so if we move on to looking at strategic partners and suppliers for your businesses, like thinking about which partnerships are critical. So what are we doing in terms of critical partnerships, and how we run our business and what we're doing there, and looking at who are our critical suppliers and what's happening in that space. And our critical suppliers could be physical suppliers of goods. So that might be coffee cups for our coffee shop. It might be bread for our sandwich shop. It might be our virtual assistant who provides us with business support, you know, in terms of answering emails, booking appointments, and making sure that our calendar is maintained effectively. So we need to think through those sorts of activities and look at who is a critical supplier and which of them are key resources to us. So if we have a key partner and we have a key resource, then it's going to be important that we know that that's the value they're adding. And we need to know what sort of partnership do we need? Can we work with somebody who is virtually based? Can we work with somebody who has to come into the office? What are our constraints and requirements around that partnership, and what do we want from them? And so when we think about that, we think about what assets do we seek to leverage from a partner? So what is our partner willing to offer us? So in the case of our health and safety expert, what do they offer us? What value do we want from them? So have a think about that with your partner suppliers. Think about, you know, if it's a technical team, we want them to be able to provide good UX design. We might want them to do some database work for us because we want to be able to store data and be able to reuse it. Maybe we need to look at some GDPR implications as well. So perhaps we need a person who has GDPR skills who can come in and talk about compliance with the data protection regulations and make sure that we are adhering to those and that we've got the proper processes in that we can demonstrate that it works. If it's a bookkeeper, maybe we need somebody who can come and handle our accounts for us and produce them for us on a week-to-week basis. So that's what we're looking to leverage from them, is that expert knowledge in that particular area, or it could be expertise in manufacturing, as I say, of packaging products, certain equipment that can only be made in a bespoke way. So that could be if I'm in a factory and I want to install machines for cutting steel and board, then I might have a whole setup from somebody who comes in and installs that for me and makes sure that it's all there. And then I can become a key partner with other people who want cutting done. So I might be able to say, well, actually, I can take on that and do the cutting piece for you and then deliver back the finished goods to you. So that could be my specialism. I'm using somebody to set up the machines and install them for me, and I'm using them as an outsourced person to do that work for me, while I then build the final product for my customer. So these are all sorts of different ways that we can find our different key partners. So have a think about what is our partner willing to offer to us, and then when we come back and say, what do we leverage? What leverage do we offer our partner? So what does our partner value in us? And in the example of the board cutting and metal cutting, as the business who's using that particular equipment, I value the partner because they can do the job, they're reliable. I know that if I deliver the materials to them, they will do the work for me and I will get back the finished product, and it will be at the right space for me. Yep. So we've got health and safety, compliance, training modules, keeping you up to date with employment legislation. Absolutely. Yep. Employment legislation changes all the time. Sometimes we think we know what the rules are, and then somebody comes along and says some things have changed because of the way things work. Your health and safety experts may also have connections with the local council as well, and they can help you stay on track with the council's expectations, because maybe the council has looked at a statutory instrument that's recently been released and they're talking about how you can implement that in the borough that you're in. I'm not sure if you have issues where one borough has slightly different ways of doing or recording the outcome, but again, these people can take on some of that compliance activity for you and make sure that you are meeting the local standards. Thank you very much. So that's what our partner value in us, and how are we going to collaborate and transfer value. So what are those key activities going to be? And I think in the example of our health and safety training, the key activities that the partner is going to provide is the training, is the compliance certification. It's going to be the ongoing updates to you to say, these are things that have changed in the compliance space. This is what you need to do. And the resources they're providing you are the training materials, the updated material for the latest legislation, and the resources are also offering you is their expertise to assess your business. So there's a mix of activities there, so we can collaborate and transfer value to our partner and back again. And for the partner in this instance, we're offering them an economic benefit because we're paying for them to do that. But sometimes it might be that the partner is getting a non-monetary benefit from us because we might be doing something slightly different. So we might be taking recycled end-of-life goods and send them to a charity, and that charity is then using them to recycle the goods or to reuse them for other activities such as textiles into insulation. So there's lots of different ways that we can think about transferring and collaborating value to our partner. It's not just an economic one. And we're looking at values as well. And so part of it is the value transfer. So what's the expected outcome? If I am working with this partner, what is the value that I'm going to get? So when I'm working with my health and safety team, the value for me is that I don't have to spend a lot of time trying to figure out what is it that a health and safety compliance certificate would look like. I talk to the expert, I define what I need, and they come back and tell me, this is how it is going to work. These are the steps you need to take. These are the issues that you need to address. And that saves me time. So the value for me is less time spent worrying about my health and safety and more time spent, if I'm in the accounting space, more time spent with clients doing work with them and generating billable revenue. And sometimes it's about freeing up my time so I can focus where I add value in the business. And if sometimes when we're talking about this, we're looking at, well, what is the role I'm playing? Am I good at the role? do I add value to the business doing the role? And that's part of the value-driven assessment of that, is that if I'm doing the health and safety, I'm probably not that good at the role, and I'm not adding value to my business. So I need to be able to outsource that and look for a partner who can deliver that for me. And it may be the same with my manufacturing. If I'm a manufacturer, I might not have capacity to do all of my work in-house. So I need to be able to look at ways to outsource that. And the value I get from that is a high quality product that comes back into my factory that I can finish goods with. So it's about making sure that I know where I'm transferring that value and what does it look like and what's the value to me. Because I may be able to say that instead of spending 1 day a week on my administrative activities, health and safety, booking in meetings, doing sales exploratory calls, things like this, if other people are doing that and I am then doing the billable work, then I can put a value on that and I can assess the value of that billable work versus the cost to me of employing the additional teams to do that, outsourced teams. And I can say, well, actually, it's a benefit to me because I'm spending more time doing billable work and generating more revenue versus the cost of paying for that particular partnership and the cost with that particular partner. So there's some things to think about in that space. Some of you to think about that. Again, if I've got developers doing work for me, it's about actually having somebody who can build the code for me. And they're adding value to me because they're building my product for me, and I'm going to have something I can market and sell, but I don't have the expertise to do that. So my expected outcome is that I pay less to get the development done than it costs me to do it myself, and I'll get a better product because the quality of the product will be much better by having professionals do it. So I might think about that as a return on the investment, is I get a better value, I get better value out of the relationship because I get a better quality product. So there's some things to think about, what the transfer between our partners is going to be. And if we are going to be working with these partners, we should have a contract in place to assess who's doing what. Some of the biggest challenges in businesses is not having a contractual agreement in place between the two parties, and there can be an issue around payments or an issue around expectations, and as a result of that, the parties could be at loggerheads and being upset with each other because what has transpired is that people's expectations haven't been met because we didn't write them down in the first place. And if you are looking to tender for work with local authorities, oftentimes they will put in the tender, they'll say that if you are the main contractor here, you can use subcontractors, but you need to be transparent about that, how that works. And if you are using subcontractors, you need to have the agreements in place. So you want to be able to talk about who's involved in this activity. So who is it? Is it just you and the other party, or is there a third party involved? What are the services you're going to perform? So the client is going to deliver to you, or your supplier is going to deliver to you health and safety services. It looks like this. You'll get so many hours of their time per month. They will deliver you updated legislation bulletins once a month. They will deliver you the health and safety training modules, which your team will be able to use online. There's lots of different ways as to laying out exactly what you expect from each part of that service. And in return, it may be that you are just paying for the service. You're simply saying, I will pay you monthly and I'll pay you a fixed retainer per month for your service. But some of them may be that you're doing the work and you've agreed that you will take a share of the profit with the supplier. So again, it may be that you have a different model for that. It might be that you are finding the work for the client to have one person who does metal roofing. They look for builds that are going on that might want a metal roof installed, and they find builders to go away and do the installation. So for the builder, the benefit to them is that they get to do the build. The benefit for the company selling the roofing is that they're able to procure the metal and sell it and make a profit on the buy to sell with the builder and with the client. So there's different ways of adding value there. And also you might want to think about value that you add. So sometimes you might be working with a supplier and you're able to increase the volumes of that supplier through the clients that you have. and you might be looking at ways of, increasing profit share with them, because you're saying, if I can increase your sales, then, I will take a percentage of that, because they might have other suppliers. They might supply for other clients, and some of them might be others that you introduce to them as well, depending on how that works. So if you have a introductory service, you might agree a fee for that. You need to know how it's going to be reported, who the contact person is, when are we going to report, is it weekly, monthly, quarterly, how long is this agreement going to be in place, particularly if we are contracting in a service. We want to know, is it 6 months, 12 months, is it a rolling basis, what are the break points? Advertising might be a 15-year service, but we can have a break point after 7 years. Renting a shop might be on a 5-year lease with a 3-year break clause. So there's lots of different ways that we can think about how to do that. And then we've got the expected outcomes and milestones. We need to say what good looks like. What is a good service? What does it constitute? If the client comes to me and asks for very complicated and detailed financial accounting reports from me as an accountant, I might say to them, that's great, we can do that, but that is an additional service. We'll give you your quarterly VAT return, and we'll give you your annual corporation tax return. But if you want to do quarterly financial management accounting, that's a different service, and there's a different cost to that. So that way, if your contract's clear, you're able to negotiate with the client at the time the additional increase in your service as well. Any reporting, any timelines, and we need the quality controllers about what does good look like and how do we prove that it's good. And typically you would have the contract signed as well, because it becomes something that is a legally binding arrangement. And by having those contracts in place, it enables us to say, I am going to engage with you, my key supplier. These are the services you're going to provide for me. So for my waste management service, you will come and collect my waste at 11 o'clock every evening when the restaurant closes from Tuesday to Saturday. And I expect it to be there within, 30 minutes of the restaurant closing. And I expect to pay you a certain fee for that. And when I come back in the next day to look at my restaurant, I expect all the waste to be removed and nothing to have been left in the bins or beside the bins. And so there's a conversation about that. And good looks like a clean yard when I come back in the morning. So that feeds into our supply chain. If you look at the Board of Innovation and their circular economy, there's also the Alan MacArthur Foundation, where they talk through a lot of examples about circular economy. And you can look at different ways of having circular economy: distribution, facilities, waste, emissions, energy. And so, for example, the circular economy, some of that energy piece is waste converted into biomethane, which then becomes energy to feed back into the grid. If you're in a factory, there's a company up at Park Royal. They've installed enough solar panels on their factory roof to be able to power their factory on a sunny day and reduce their overall cost. And it's critical now, with the cost of energy rising, that you've got in place ways of reducing your energy footprint. So there's some options around that, where you might want to have factories with solar panels, or maybe you're in a building and you have a discussion with the landlord where they can install solar panels on the roof, and you can use that to offset your energy costs. Lots of different ways to look at that. So spare parts, materials, infrastructure, there's lots of different examples that you can work through depending on where you are in the supply chain. And it has this impact on innovation as well. We're looking at closed innovation is where corporations work within their corporate boundary, and they don't work outside of that, and it becomes a very insular sort of activity. Whereas if we collaborate with external partners, we may open up new markets, alternative markets, and different ways of selling our products with our partners into other markets. So that's what innovation is that ability to open up new markets through new ways of looking at existing processes. One example we have here is the pallet yard. They collect and resell pallets. You may have seen pallets lying around on streets, on corners, stacked up in yards somewhere in office buildings or industrial estates. So what Ruth Ann and Ian are able to do is to buy those pallets off these companies, take them into the yard. They have people who want to purchase the pallets and go and then resell them back out to the target audience, to their target customers. They clear them from sites, they recycle them and repair them. So sometimes pallets come in and they're damaged, and they need to take parts and put them back together and repair those pallets, so you've got a whole pallet again. So the pallet can lifetime is extended. And they've also got a sideline in DIY projects where people might buy 1 or 2 pallets to make, as you can see, a coffee table here. People might turn them into garden furniture or use them as chippings, and when they get to the end of life, they can mulch them down into a sort of sawdust or sort of chipped waste, and then you can spread that on your garden and use that as something to protect your garden bed from the frost. So there's lots of different ways to work in the circular economy and make sure that you are able to reuse and recycle your goods. And you can see there, Ruth Ann and Ian have found these sorts of seminars to be useful and help them to grow as a small business. Any other questions on that one at the moment? Any thoughts from what we've heard so far on how you could be more circular in your business workings with your key partners? Yeah, any questions you have, just pop them into the chat. There's also the Q&A facility, or just general chat questions if you want to follow up on that as well. So as part of the one-to-one program, when you're meeting with your business advisor from Brand sponsored by the Hammersmith and Fulham Council, you can look at ways of working through that partnership process. So what is the business challenge? Have you done the market research for this? What are your reasons for partnering? So you can talk about, well, why would they make a good partner? Or potentially you might have somebody where you think this is not the right partner for us, and you can lay out the reasons why they're not a good partner for you versus why they could be a good partner, and make a decision around that based on the facts that you have, and sort of work through that process. There's the partnership canvas. You can use that to think about, what does our partner bring? What are the resources they bring? What are the processes they bring? How do we add value to that relationship through having sat down and thought about the type of partner we want and the reasons for partnering with them, and going through the partnership canvas, we can then start to identify the partners that we could work with. And it is important that we look at ones that we know we can work with or might be able to work with, and start to understand, well, what do they offer? Do they meet our requirements? Are they a good fit for us based on our reasons for partnering? Why do we want to partner with people? What do we not want from relationships? So we can start to meet with these partners, engage with them, and say, can we work with these people? What does it give us as a business? Are they the right sort of partner for us? We can then collaborate with them to develop that partnership further. Maybe we're a manufacturer and we want to do something a bit different, so we want to start building up a prototype, or we want to have a technology product with a prototype, so we'll work with them to do that. And then once we've got our new product out there in the market, we want to test that, experiment with that, and say, does that work? What needs to be done differently? Do some user testing, some market testing, get the feedback, and then refine and launch our product on the back of that. So that's the kind of the process for that. It's a fairly step-by-step guide to it, but it is a bit more iterative than this sometimes, because we might find that when we've thought about our partnership canvas and what we're trying to achieve with it, and we start shortlisting partners, that we find new information. So we may have to go back and do a little bit more thought around reasons for partnering and rework our canvas. But that's great, because that means that we're learning and exploring and understanding what works for us and what doesn't work for us, rather than just saying, this is what we're doing and we can't change it. So this is a very dynamic process. It enables us to be creative and design new ways of doing things, and it allows us to answer the questions: who are our key partners? Who are our key suppliers? What are the key resources we're requiring? And what are those key activities they perform for us? That's going to be critical for us, knowing what they do, who they are, how they work with us, and what we get from them, and knowing that we've been through a thorough process of understanding why we want to partner with them. So that's all part of the process, and through working through that canvas, and there are examples available. You can contact the Brandywin team to get these examples, and we can send them out to you. And if you need a one-to-one session and you haven't done so already, then you can sign up for the 2 hours of one-to-one support offered by the council through this program. So at the end of this, you might have 3 key actions that you want to perform, maybe 1, maybe 2, but stop and think about, what is your action plan and what do you need to do as a takeaway, and when are you going to do it by? So I need to have a partner who does my health and safety for me. I'm the business owner, so it's going to be me, and I would like to do this by the 11th of January because I'm away for 3 weeks at Christmas time, so there's no point in putting a date of the 24th of December in there if I'm going to be away. So I'll do this when I get back in the new year, and that's how I would go about doing that. And that's how we keep on top of the actions in our business. Some resources, if you are looking for opportunities for tendering for work and being part of the supply chain in the area that you're in. Hammersmith and Fulham use Capital E-sourcing for their tenders. We also have london-tenders.org, and there's the national procontract.due-north.com. And there's also lots of different ways of finding these things. So Ealing, Hammersmith, Hounslow, you can find them on Proactus, and you can also look at other tenders that are out there. And coming up, 3 minutes left in the session. The big event that we have is in January, on the 24th of January from 2:30 to 5 p.m. This is a Meet the Buyer event. So this is where we're going to have representatives from the council. So we'll have Nikki Burgess from the Economic Regeneration team. We will have a couple of the main suppliers from Danhouse and other organizations such as that. So you'll be able to come along to the Shortlands Business Centre in Hammersmith, which is just past the Virgin Leisure Centre near the Novotel on the way to High Street, Ken, and come and meet some of the buyers, meet the council people, and talk about, opportunities that are there. We'll have the head of procurement as well. So you'll be able to come along and ask questions about how do I get contracts through Hammersmith and Fulham. We have our introduction to bid writing and improving your bid response. That's part of our bid training in February, so the 9th and 16th of February. So yes, come along and meet some of our buyers on the 24th of January. That's a big event in the calendar, and it'll be great to see you all there. So don't forget to do that. And that's the agenda for the day. So there'll be some panels, opportunities to meet with people and look at what's happening in the thriving borough of Hammersmith and Fulham. There's also the one-to-one support. So this enables you to sit down and look at your plan, understand what you need to do to procure business opportunities, and putting in place action plans to win your new contracts. What's blocking you? How do we get it unblocked? What are the steps to take? Where do you need to go to find that? And to book a one-to-one session, contact Noshir at brandywin.co.uk. Go onto the portals and submit some expressions of interest. If you have an expression of interest and you meet with your advisor, they can provide you with insight into how to bid well for that bid. And finally, thank you very much. Any questions you have out of today, you can email info@brandywin.co.uk, or you can call our hotline on 0203 488 7150. And we look forward to hearing from you soon. So thank you very much. Hope you all have a great day. And as I said, any questions, feel free to send us an email or sign up for the one-to-ones and get some specialist advice from our Brandywin team. Thank you very much and enjoy the day.